This is one of 6 short films which look beyond hierarchy at 2 different approaches to self-organisation.
This part is about getting things done together. It's about actually getting the work done, inside and outside of meetings. It's what we spend the bulk of our time doing, and it's like surfing. When all the conditions are right, this one just flows. But if conditions aren't right, such as if it's not clear what the direction is, or who's supposed to be doing what, or who has authority for what decisions in areas of work, or if there are interpersonal tensions, political divisions, undiscussable issues, or if there aren't ways to get feedback and learn from what you do, or if there's no clear connection between what you're doing and what the needs and demand are for it, then it can be demotivating, frustration, and difficult to actually get things done. Or it can be brilliant and inspiring when it's working well. For example, imagine a football team where everyone is playing to the peak of their ability. The areas which need to be working well here, or in any organisation, and which are covered by this series of films are that there's a clear direction, they know where they're going, trying to score a goal. It wouldn't be much fun without that. They know how they fit into their environment and are in the right place, on a football pitch with fans watching. It wouldn't be much good if they were trying to play in a swamp or on a high street. There is a referee with very clear rules of the game, and they play in their positions according to their strengths and skills, which enables the game to be played smoothly and people do their best. There are clear and effective norms and rules shared by both teams, which enables them to play. You don't see people pulling down their pants or taking a phone call in the middle of a match. The players train and study to keep fit and improve the game. All of these things enable a team to play with a spirit of cooperation to achieve a common goal, win the game. Without all these things, it's difficult to collaborate effectively. All of these things are possible in any of the 3 ways of running organisations, with a hierarchy, collaborative, or more agile approach. It's just that they look different. It depends on the culture of the organisation and how the power works, as described in those 2 films of the series.
This part looks at how this is done with a conventional hierarchy, as a reference point for what the other 2 approaches are shifting away from. Hierarchies normally have line management, where a manager is responsible for ensuring that work gets done by others. 2 familiar patterns here are that some managers want to control the work and attempt to micromanage what others do, while others delegate and empower people. Whether it's controlling, competitive, or collaborative and empowering depends on the personalities of the people involved and culture of the organisation. And lots of varieties exist within hierarchies. Meetings have a familiar, conventional format, normally run by the manager, who often decides the agenda in advance. Some benefits here are that when people are given clear direction, managed well, and roles are defined so people know what they are doing, and a manager is decisive, things can get done efficiently, in the short term at least. In an environment which is relatively stable, the predict and control approach typically used in hierarchies can work well. And meetings can be effective when they are chaired well. Some challenges are that a lot depends on the personality and style of the manager, and on how well you get on with them. But then a lot can change when someone else takes over. Line management supervision is often very poor or absent, so people are not managed well and issues are not picked up. And if you are micromanaged, you can waste a lot of time checking things with your boss, and you don't feel like you can just get on with it. It can be hard to make things happen if your boss doesn't approve, and then it's tempting to use politics to try and find ways around them, which is not an efficient way of getting things done. And when the environment is more complex, fast-changing and unpredictable, managers, especially middle managers, get overwhelmed by change and competing demands, and they often become bottlenecks in the system. Some tools used here are clear, up-to-date job descriptions, so people know what they are supposed to be doing, extracting work plans from the organisation's strategy so that progress can be assessed, regular and good quality line management supervision, which review progress against work plans and can include personal and relationship issues too, regular performance reviews, or the delegation of authority and empowering people does have a more hands-off approach to line management, and this requires higher levels of trust and better quality communication and relationships. Robert's Rules of Order is the definitive guide to chairing meetings in conventional settings. And using tools from all the other episodes in this series can create the conditions for people to get things done together effectively. But what does all this look like when people organise without a hierarchical structure? The next two parts look at two approaches to self-organising which are shaped by different ways of seeing and being in the world.
In organisations with a more collaborative approach and set of values, working with greater awareness of what influences us enables us to collaborate more consciously and effectively. But collaboration isn't something that can be made to order and provided on demand like fast food. It's more like a delicate flower, which requires the right conditions in a healthy system to flourish. This series of films covers all the essential areas of organisational life, which need to work well, like a natural system to create the right conditions for people to collaborate effectively, because lots of collaboration can be very ineffective and gives it a bad name or some mythical, unattainable status. Informed by collaborative values, what does this look like? People approach their work with a general spirit of cooperation rather than trying to be controlling or competitive. There's a willingness to tolerate differences between people, and these are dealt with constructively. And more than that, a curiosity about what can I learn from different points of view. When there are differences, people seek common ground and build on that to find a way forward to compromise, rather than focusing on getting their way. The challenges of getting things done with a more flat, collaborative approach are that if we assume we need agreement from everyone else to do something, we end up waiting for the next meeting to get approval from others before taking action. This can massively slow things down. The organisation can feel and appear impotent and incompetent, and people who want to get things done often leave in frustration. Without all of these other things being clear, meetings can be slow and painful. This is sometimes called the tyranny of consensus. Good meeting processes and people who are skilled at facilitating collaborative processes are tragically lacking in many of these organisations. Some tools used here are a clear structure for running meetings, good facilitation skills, clarifying tasks and roles. Again, it may take time to decide this, but it saves time in the long run if this is clear. In sociocracy, people are elected into roles using an open consent-based process, which shifts the power dynamics from the boss appointing people and can avoid the ad hoc nature of people volunteering into roles often seen in these organisations. Clarify what people are accountable for and have the authority for deciding on their own and what needs to be checked with others. Adopting a methodology like dynamic governance or sociocracy can provide a whole set of practices to work well together. This methodology has features of both the collaborative and agile approaches used in this series. The tools in the rest of these episodes create the conditions for collaboration to flourish.
Another approach to self-organisation beyond hierarchy is more agile, responsive, adaptable, and evolutionary, and there are many examples of this. This part looks at Holacracy as an example of self-organisation with a dynamic steering approach. Here, getting the work done is clearly separated from questions of how we work together, whereas the two are often confused together and muddled in the other two ways of running organisations. It's the difference between working in the organisation which is operations, and working on the organisation, which is governance. Because these are two very different things, there are different ways of running meetings for them both. Governance meetings decide who has authority for which things, by defining roles and their accountabilities, as described in the Working with Power episode of this series. Tactical meetings deal with operations, coordinating how the work is done and processing tensions about that, and are generally short and snappy. Within the roles defined by governance, each person has autonomy about how they do the work. So within a role, a person is like an autocrat, and people can energize many different roles at the same time. Some benefits of this approach are that because roles are clear and authority is distributed among the roles, people can get on and do the work without being held back by having to check with a boss, because there isn't a boss, or having to run things past everyone else to make sure everyone is okay with them. Ways of running tactical meetings mean there is a transparency and accountability for work and progress. And where tensions are sensed, there are a number of pathways to rapidly and reliably process them into meaningful change, so they don't cause blockages in the system. Big predict and control plans are avoided, and only the minimum decision is made for the next steps to be done at one time. This enables short feedback loops, where information about actions is collected and feeds into the next decision, enabling agile responses. And there isn't a dependence on heroic leaders to make the decisions. The leadership and decision-making authority is distributed so that each role makes the decisions as they need to. Some of the challenges of this approach are that people who are in positions of management prior to using Holacracy can find it hard to let go of control once Holacracy is adopted, because they no longer can direct how other people work. And from the other side, it can be hard to get out of the habit of looking up to a manager for direction and to truly take responsibility for your role and be accountable for it. It can be challenging to get out of the predict and control mindset of making grand plans and move into the more emergent approach of focusing on what's my next action here while staying aware of a larger purpose. Some examples of tools here are separating operations from governance with different meeting processes for each. The Holacracy tactical meeting process for operations with no predefined agendas, so the agenda is rapidly created at the start of the meeting. Tactical meetings include updates on checklists, metrics and projects. Some organisations also have short daily stand-up meetings to coordinate work. They are stand-up meetings to keep them short. Governance meetings embed learning from operational tensions into the role definitions and organisational structure, so things don't get stuck. And people are required to have personal task management systems, like the Getting Things Done system created by David Allen, which enables clear task prioritisation and transparency about what projects are being worked on. This is required by the Holacracy Constitution. And a physical or virtual corkboard provides a real-time picture of live projects being worked on.
To summarise, there are no quick fixes or simple solutions to any of this, and it looks, feels and works differently in each of these three ways of running organisations. Devoting energy and attention to creating the right conditions enables it to flow, and then you can enjoy surfing the waves of working well. Attending to all the areas covered in this series of films will enable you to get things done together with others in ways that are brilliant and inspiring.
These are just three models, which don't exactly fit reality, and not one of them is better than the others. Rather, each model fits better into a different set of conditions, culture, and values. Many organisations are a complex mix of these patterns, and recognising them will enable you to make conscious choices about which works best in your situation. Which is the better fit for your organisation, environment, and where things are moving to.